Hey, welcome. So today, we're going to dive into something pretty much all of us deal with, anxiety. But here's the twist. We're not going to treat it like some kind of personal failing or a bug in your system. We're going to approach it like a code, a message that if we're clever, we can actually learn to read.
So let's just start with this one question, kind of kick things off. What if your anxiety wasn't this random, terrible curse you have to put up with? What if it's actually a coded message from a deeper part of you trying to tell you something really, really important? To even begin to decode that message, you need a map. And our map for this journey is what we're going to call the iceberg of fear. You know, what we actually feel day to day, that's just the tiny little tip sticking out of the water. The real story, the real power, is all hidden down below. So, let's start our descent.
Okay, part one, the map of fear. We're starting at the top, right at the surface, with the part of this whole thing that we can all see and definitely feel.
This is level 1. This is your raw, biological survival instincts in action. That pounding heart, the sweaty palms, that's your amygdala. Think of it as your brain's ancient, tiny security guard going off because it thinks there's a real physical threat. This is the hardware we inherited from our ancestors. You know, the ones who had to literally run for their lives. It's lightning fast, it's automatic, and has one job: keep you alive.
All right, part two, below the surface. Now, let's be honest. Most of our anxieties today aren't about being chased by a predator. So to understand them, we have to slip just below the waterline, into these powerful, invisible currents that really run our lives.
And here we are at level 2, social fears. This is the fear of public speaking, that feeling in your gut when you walk into a party, the dread of being judged. And it might feel like it's all in your head, but its roots are just as biological as level 1. This is all driven by our deep, non-negotiable, evolutionary need to belong to the group.
So why is this fear so incredibly powerful? I mean, it's just words, right? Well, for our ancient ancestors, being rejected from the tribe literally meant death. You were out on your own. It wasn't just embarrassing, it was a death sentence. And that ancient terror, it still echoes in our DNA every single time we worry about what other people think of us.
And get this, we have hard science that backs this up. Brain scans show that social rejection, getting left out, it lights up the exact same part of the brain as physical pain. Just look at this comparison here. The brain's distress center goes off whether you stub your toe or someone gives you a dirty look. The big takeaway is, it literally hurts. Your brain doesn't really know the difference.
Part 3, the existential deep. Okay, let's take a deep breath together because we're going much, much deeper now. We're entering the vast, kind of dark waters at the bottom of the iceberg.
We've reached level 3, existential fears. This is that heavy, quiet anxiety that tends to creep in at 3 a.m., the fear that our lives don't have meaning, that we're wasting time. Psychologists have a name for this, terror management theory, which is really just a fancy way of saying we live with this constant underlying conflict. We have this intense desire to live, but we are fully aware that one day we won't. So how do we cope with that deep underlying terror? Well, we're pretty clever. We build these two powerful psychological shields. First, we throw ourselves into big belief systems, things like our culture, our nation, our careers, things that feel like they'll last beyond us. And second, we build up our self-esteem by feeling like we're a valuable contributor to that system. It's our brain's way of defending against the fear of just fading away.
Part 4, the fear of fear. All right, we've hit the very bottom, the final layer, and this is where the logic of fear gets really weird and starts to turn in on itself. Welcome to level 4, the fear of fear. The technical term is phobophobia. Now at this level, the threat isn't a lion, and it isn't what other people think. The threat is the feeling of anxiety itself. Your own mind becomes the prison, and you're haunted by the mere possibility of a future panic attack.
To make this super clear, let's use a fire alarm analogy. Think of your anxiety system as your mind's fire alarm, okay? So at level 1, the alarm goes off because there's a real fire. It's working perfectly. Great job, alarm.
Now, at level 2, with those social fears, the alarm is maybe just a little too sensitive. It starts blaring because you burned some toast. It's an overreaction, for sure, but it's still reacting to something tangible, a little bit of smoke. But level 4, this is a total game changer. You're no longer afraid of the fire. You're not even afraid of the smoke from the toast. You are terrified of the loud, blaring sound of the alarm itself. You start to live in constant dread that the alarm might go off, even when you're in a perfectly safe, totally empty house. That is the vicious cycle of panic. Okay, part 5,
a new conversation. So we've mapped the whole iceberg, we've been to the bottom. Now, how in the world do we get back to the surface? Well, the answer isn't to fight your way up. It's to start a completely new kind of conversation. So the very first step, and this is so crucial, is to stop treating your anxiety like an enemy you have to destroy. Just stop the war. Instead, what if you invited it in for a chat? What if you recognized it as a part of you that is, in its own weird way, just trying to protect you?
Here is a super powerful, practical exercise you can try. Seriously, just imagine your fear and picture it sitting in a chair across from you. Then you ask it these 3 simple questions. First, what are you trying to protect me from? Then listen. Second, what message am I not hearing? And finally, what do you need from me to feel safe? This little dialogue can transform fear from a bully into an advisor.
Part 6, Fear's Positive Shadow. And when you actually start that conversation, you discover something kind of profound. You find out that every fear has a hidden positive intent.
So, every single fear you have casts what we can call a positive shadow. And this shadow isn't more darkness. No, it's a direct reflection of what you value most deeply. Your fear is actually a compass, and it is always, always pointing towards something you truly care about.
Let's just look at an example. That intense fear of being judged or of speaking in public. What's its positive shadow? It's your profound, beautiful human need to connect with other people, to be seen, and to feel like you belong. The size of the fear actually tells you how big that need is.
Or, what about that deep existential fear of living a meaningless life? Well, its shadow is your incredible, powerful drive to create something, to contribute, to leave a legacy that matters. The fear isn't a sign that you're failing, it's a sign that you have this powerful purpose that's just trying to get out. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. I want you to look at your own anxiety, not as a curse, but as a compass. Follow its direction down through that iceberg, and just ask yourself, what core value, what beautiful positive intention is my fear so desperately trying to point me toward?